the members of the National Working Committee of our great party, other leaders of the party, other distinguished guests, we decline to grant the order of mandamus sought on the ground that granting same will, in the considered opinion of the court, amount to sitting on appeal over the judgments of courts of coordinate jurisdiction. For clarity, we approached the court seeking an order of mandamus to compel the independent National Electoral Commission to recognize the Ibadan Convention and to facilitate the official party communications with the Commission. In the course of the proceedings, some former members of our party who had earlier been expelled applied to be joined and were so joined by the order of the court. They filed processes urging the court not to grant our prayers without more. However, and we must respectfully, the court proceeded suo motu to grant reliefs that were neither prayed for nor canvassed by any of the parties before the court. More importantly, the judgment is in material conflict with subsisting orders and previous judgments of courts of coordinate jurisdiction, all of whom are now subject of appeal before the Court of Appeal. Consequently, we have filed a notice of appeal as well as motion for stay of execution of the judgment, and we are determined to pursue this matter diligently and to its logical conclusion in accordance with the law. I wish to show to you, members of the press, this is our notice of appeal. Again, the judgment delivered this morning, we've already appealed against it. And then this is our application for stay of execution of that same judgment delivered this morning. So we've appealed, like I've said, and we've also applied for stay of execution of that judgment. So unless that application is heard and determined one way or another, that judgment is now in abeyance. For the avoidance of doubt, this judgment is only one among several decisions of the Federal High Court on this subject matter, and the core issues arising therefrom are already before the Court of Appeal. In that sense, this particular judgment is, technically speaking, academic, pending the authoritative pronouncement of the appellate courts on the same. Let me assure all members of our great party that notwithstanding this judgment, the National Working Committee produced by the Ibadan Convention remains legally intact, firmly in place, and fully committed to the ongoing rebirth of the People's Democratic Party. I therefore urge our members and supporters across the country to remain calm and resolute. There is absolutely no cause for alarm. The rebirth movement is steadily on course. This judgment represents nothing more than the navigation of one of the judicial bends along our journey. The destination remains clear, and as history has consistently shown, it is the final outcome that ultimately matters. There are more than two matters that are pending before the Court of Appeal. First, there is the judgment of Justice Lifu. There is also the judgment of Justice Omotosho, and there is another judgment given by Justice Abdul Malik. But it's important for me to say that in all these three matters, we were sued, who were defending those cases. So we appealed against the orders that were made against the party in those cases. But in the matter that was decided this morning in Ibadan, We went to court and we asked for an order of mandamus, just like I've stated. And there are some persons applied to be joined, and they were joined, and there was no counterclaim. There was no other press before the court, and the court, as it were, went beyond the boundary of the issues that were before the court, and like Father Christmas, awarded to litigants reliefs, which were not claimed before that court. It's a fundamental principle of law that the courts, our courts, are not charitable institutions. They do not give unto individual litigants what they have not asked for. Even if you ask for it, you have to prove your entitlement to it before you get it. So we have appealed. Now, am I concerned that these appeals have not been heard? I am not concerned as a lawyer. Now, there are processes that are usually done before an appeal matures for hearing. And these processes are, each party will be given an opportunity of a fair hearing. And that fair hearing means that parties will now file all their briefs within the time stipulated by law. Now, counsel on both sides in this matter have done something that is worthy of praise, because counsel, even without an order by court, were able to now compound the time within which they are supposed to file their briefs, and did so commendably, timeously. But when you file processes, there are usually sometimes arises the need for replies to be made by the parties. And these replies will also be filed. But I want to say that both counsel on both sides have done what is worthy of commendation, and all briefs in these matters are now in the court's files. But I am aware that there are a lot of appeals that have matured for hearing in the Abuja division. And I understand that the court is desirous of doing the kind of Marshall Plan they did for Lagos division. Because in Lagos division, there were more than 500 appeals that were arrived for hearing, and then the court had sought to create about 11, 12 panels that sat and were able to dispose of all of them. In Abuja division, I'm aware also that there are more than 400 appeals that are ripe for hearing. So we are praying that the management of the Court of Appeal and leadership in their wisdom will also create that Marshall Plan for the Abuja division, and then set up special panels that will hear all these appeals. If that is done, I am hopeful that our case, being a political case, is one of the cases that will take priority. So very soon, in the nearest future, I'm sure the Court of Appeal will set up a panel that will hear and determine all these appeals. One of the things we do pray probably should be done by that court will be the consolidation of all these appeals, so that there will be one single judgment that will now be binding on all the parties. Now, if you also look at some of these cases, you could see that most of them are somewhat interconnected in their roots, so that the basis of one ultimately is also the basis of the others. So a determination of the key issues in this appeal will determine all these appeals, and will also bring to rest all other matters that are pending in various courts in Nigeria. So we're hopeful. I'm not concerned that the matters have not been heard. I'm hopeful that very soon the Court of Appeal will set up a panel to hear all these appeals.